Alright, so I'm returning to my wife's 2007 Hyundai Entourage. I replaced the valve cover gasket about 2.5 months ago, and I didn't know about having to put sealant on the corners here where the valve cover and the top of the cylinder and the timing plate in the front of the engine all intersect. There's a little bit of a gap there. I watched it for a week or two and I didn't see any leaks, but over time I guess it did because my alternator went out again. But it was bad when I bought it, the alternator. But when I removed it, there was a little bit of oil on it, so I'm going to go ahead and try to fix this permanently. So that means I'm taking this valve cover off, and I'm going to, this time, put some red RTV where I need to. I'm going to try to reuse the valve cover gasket because it was a Felpro, a high quality Felpro, and it was only on for 2 months. So I'm hoping that I can reuse it and it won't be a problem. When I get it apart, I'll inspect it, make that determination. But that's what we're doing today. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove these spark plug coils. And the way to do that is there's a tab and you pull it straight back. I just dropped my screwdriver. Oh, shoot. All right, hold on a second. So after getting the spark plug coil packs all disconnected from the wiring, I've pulled those out. Now I'm going to start loosening all these cables that are attached to the top of the cylinder here, cylinder head, valve cover. And I'm going to basically unhook up here as well and just kind of peel it off out of the way, just enough to where I can get the cover out and put the stuff on for the gasket that I need. So basically I've already removed some stuff, like this thing's been removed, but all these pieces here, they're going to be removed and moved out of the way. So these hoses here, they connect for breathing to the top of the valve cover, and also this hose here that goes back to the inlet. I'm going to remove that to give me a little bit of clearance. That allows me to get to this, I believe this is the PVC valve, so I'll disconnect that. I'll leave the PVC valve in there. This bracket here that goes across, I'm not planning on removing it. I removed it last time and it wasn't necessary, so I'll leave it this time. But I removed it last time to clean the head, clean it up some because it's pretty grunge. So that's what we're looking like so far. I'm going to comment, this wire here, ground wire, was attached to that bolt. I've already loosened it and removed it. Put the bolt back in there so I don't have to keep up with it. Highly recommend you do that as you're going along. Put the bolts back in as you remove them, see, so you don't have to keep up with it. Then when you put it back together, the bolt's there waiting for you. So this is starting to loosen up. I need to figure out what to do here. As I recall, I removed the loom like I did here. You can see that. I used a actually a screwdriver to move that over and pull it out. I'll try to do the same thing here, although there isn't the same clearance. Or I might be able to try to unbolt it there. That may be the better choice. Anyway, the point is get these wires and move them out of the way. After I get the wires out of the way, then I'll remove this hose. This hose has already been removed. Alrighty, so as you can see, we're already getting pretty far along. I got that big harness that was across here already out of the way. This is loose. I got to disconnect the fuel injectors, and then that whole thing should peel up and get out of the way. And then I think I can start taking, oh, actually I've got this loom coming across here. I got to loosen it up. And these things just pop open as I recall, and then just get that harness out of the way. And then I should be able to start taking the head off, or not the head, the valve cover. To comment on how to undo these fuel injectors, you see you've already got the first two off. What you're going to want to do is get a small screwdriver and press against that tab right there, and then just pull straight up and they come out. Here you have the head, cylinder head cover, valve cover. All the bolts have been removed. You'll notice that I didn't leave those in the holes. Why? Because they're all the exact same size. Some people say, well, you need to put the bolts in the same holes. Nah, not on a valve cover. And on a head, and nowadays in modern engines, you're supposed to replace the head bolts anyway. They stretch or something. So no, just put them all in one bucket and just put them in randomly because they are all exactly the same. And I can't think of any other car where it's like that, honestly, so that's really nice. So here's the bottom side of the cover, and the gasket looks great. I mean, it should look great. It isn't very old. The areas that would be leaking would have been here, in this area, and in here. All right, so I'm not seeing any indication of leaking, so it probably wasn't. But the concern is right here, this interface. See, it's got this timing plate here, this timing cover, and then the engine, and then the valve cover, and there's a bit of a bump there. The concern is oil can get past that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some RTV red there. There's some old blue shit that was on there originally and peeling off my finger. So I'll be coating that, and since it's an old gasket, well, 2 months, I'm going to go ahead and try to reuse it. I'm going to clean this up, the little bit of oil that's on the surfaces here, and I'll coat I'll coat these areas here and here with the stuff, and I'll consider go ahead and putting a thin coat around the whole thing, since I'm reusing a gasket, but I don't think I need to. I mean that looks pretty darn good to me. It's not flattened or nothing yet, so I think we're okay. We're gonna try it. Probably just the RTV in the 2 spots. I just got through applying some of the red stuff. You can see where I put it over where the three surfaces are gonna meet. I did that both on top and bottom. So I need to put the valve cover on within 5 or 10 minutes now and get that started tightening down. Okay, so up to this point, I've got all of the bolts in their spots, and I've only got them hand tightened. So now I'm going to do a distributed torque pattern on these. The first round I'll go to 5 foot-pounds, and then the second round I'll go to 8 foot-pounds, and we'll stop there. These are to be torqued to 8 foot-pounds, and generally I do the middle ones first in a star pattern or distributed pattern, and then the outer ones in a distributed pattern. And so that's what I'm fixing to do now. I won't be showing that because I need both hands. Alrighty, got everything on the valve cover torqued down. Everything tightened up nicely. One of them didn't. I had to come short on it because it felt like it might be stripping. It was that one right there. We'll live with it. As I recall, it seemed like it did that to me before. And so it didn't get all the way tightened. It might have gotten to 5 foot-pounds. It's probably good enough. So I'm going to start putting it back together. Well, it's starting to get dark out here now. I had to rush the job to get back together, but it went quickly. Everything went back together. Let me zoom out a little bit. All right, so I found everything where it was supposed to plug in, I believe. If not, the check engine light will come on and tell me what I forgot, but I think I got everything. All the bolts I had organized and left them in the holes mostly, so I didn't have to search for them. I'm just doing a search here to make sure everything's plugged in. Fuel injectors are plugged in. Spark plug coils are plugged in. Everything seems to be mounted. Plugged in. I had to remove stuff back here. It looks like it's all back in place. So this is not a bad job. Just take your time, organize the bolts that you remove. Basically, as soon as you remove them, put them back in the hole if possible. Sometimes you can't. The ones you can't put back in immediately, organize them. Make a note if you need to. I'm able to make a mental note usually on a job this big. It's not too bad. So that was all because I didn't know if this was leaking or not, and just looking at it, I don't think it was. We'll find out. We'll find out if that fixes it or not. If the leak goes away, then that was the problem. So as you can see down here, the alternator's out. I've got the new one inside. Currently waiting on a new belt tensioner. There's the old one right there. It is awful loose, and so I don't like the looks of that. I'm going to be replacing that. Once I get that on, or get that in, I'll put that thing on first. Then I'll put the alternator on, hook it up, put the belt on, and for the rest of the steps, refer to my previous videos that talks about removing the fan shroud and things of that nature to get to the alternator. And the way I do it, most people go from underneath to remove it. I come from the top to remove it. Once you remove this passenger side fan and shroud off the radiator, it gives you the clearance you need. It's pretty easy. All right, well, that's it. I hope this helps somebody.